All right, y'all, it's time to clear some things up because the Ashies are already online talking about well, y'all know they could have collapsed that bridge in Baltimore because they trying to distract us from P. Diddy. So I'm just like, girl, y'all cannot be serious right now. Talking about, oh, well, yeah, they taking him down. You know, it's a distraction. It's a distraction. Girl, we're going to actually read some actual sources. Some things you can actually cite, some articles. Let's get into it.
I'm the referee, you can't play me, baby. I'm hotter than the summer, can't shade me.
So if you were anywhere online, you will know that the Key Bridge in Baltimore collapsed. It was a crazy video to watch. A gigantic cargo ship just smashed into one of the foundations, and it just came crashing down the whole thing. So authorities say 8 people fell into the river below after the collision. 2 were rescued, with 1 person in critical condition while the other person refused medical treatment. And honestly, I don't know what I would. I mean, imagine driving and the bridge you could really just be operating out of a place of shock. Like, girl, a bridge just collapsed. I want to go home. No medical treatment. Like, that's fine. I just need to go home. And process mentally what the hell just happened to me. So a lot of people are just like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that this man refused treatment. But we just don't know what had been going through this man's head. Like, what would be going through your head if that happened? Like, we don't know what's going through this man's head. We don't know, like, if he's just like, girl, I'm not going to no hospital. Fuck what y'all talking about. So, yeah, I just saw that real quick because people had commented like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he refused treatment. The 6 people who are still unaccounted for are believed to be construction workers who were repairing potholes on the bridge. Those are my friends, my co-workers, Jesus Campos told member station WYPR. I could have been there like them, he said. Campos says he was scheduled to work on the bridge the following morning. U.S. Coast Guard at one point suspended its search and rescue efforts on Tuesday night because they were just like, at this point, the 6 people are presumed to be dead. So 22 people were aboard the ship, but they're all accounted for. They're fine. And so the cargo ship, the Dali, is nearly 1,000 feet long, right? And so we're talking about multiple football fields here, moving at 9.2 miles an hour, 8 knots. I mean, you just have to think about all of that weight, all of that size moving, even if it was moving at 5 miles an hour, girl. Like, it's just tons upon tons of weight hitting that foundation, right? So those aboard issued a mayday, and this is coming from Governor Wes Moore, and the mayday gave authorities time to stop the flow of traffic on the bridge. The Dali crashed into one of the bridge's support pillars, and parts of the structure came down immediately about 1:30 a.m. So we got federal investigators involved trying to understand why the ship drifted so far off course. The chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, Jennifer Homendy, says investigators have recovered the voyage data recorder, which is similar to the black box recorders found on airplanes. So they said they're just going to send it back to their lab, evaluate it, and develop a timeline of events that led up to the strike on the bridge, and they're going to share it with the public later. But this entire process is going to take weeks or months before they're talking about even releasing preliminary reports. Now, there were some previous incidents. Last year, the ship was found to have a problem with propulsion and auxiliary machinery. The Key Bridge, which is 4 lanes, 1.6 miles long, and carries about 11.3 million vehicles a year, was fully up to code and had no structural issues. That's what the governor is saying, that it had no structural issues. So we're gonna get into like the discussion about infrastructure and all that shit a little bit, just because I think the conversation is a little more nuanced than some people are portraying it. Or some people who are not engineers and stuff, like just like regular people on social media, right? So will the bridge be rebuilt? Federal and local authorities immediately vowed to rebuild the bridge, but cautioned that the process would take a long ass time. It would not be cheap. There is no exact precedent for this. That's what Pete was saying. He was saying that, well, in the first place, the bridge took 5 years to build. So it's definitely going to take a minute. The rest of the article here just talks about, the importance of the bridge or the channel to be open up for the economy and da 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 da. Biden said that the federal government is going to cover all the costs or whatever he's talking about. We're going to get it up and running again as soon as possible. So the authorities have not yet released any information about the pilot, the captain of the ship, or why it seemed to lose power. The NTSB and the FBI are going to be investigating. And like I said, they just talk about the economic impact for the rest of the article. So real quick, we're going to switch articles because I know we're talking about America's crummy infrastructure, right? And that's always a conversation to be had. But I think we have to remember the size and scale of the ship. Like this thing was huge. This thing was huge. I think it could hold like 100,000 metric tons of cargo. So real quick, this is the other article from Business Insider and talks about how cargo ships are getting bigger and bigger, and that's going to pose a problem. So engineering experts previously told Business Insider that the bridge built in the 1970s stood no chance of withstanding the impact from such an enormous vessel. I think it's the magnitude of the force in this case, which is extremely unusual, which has caused the problem for this bridge. And this is coming from Leroy Gardner, a professor of structural engineering at Imperial College London. The Dali container ship weighs about 95,000 tons and is 984 feet long, about the length of 3 football fields. So this wasn't just like some little ass boat, like not even a mid-sized yacht. Like this is 3 football fields, 95,000 tons. Like as this article says, container ships weren't always this big. So engineering codes at the time of the bridge's construction did not account for such a potential impact. So it's just like, yes, the conversation we should be talking about like infrastructure in general, but like since these cargo ships are getting bigger and bigger, and since the codes from the 70s and 80s, whatever the fuck, right? Since the codes from back then are not accounting for that, we're gonna run into more issues. So yes, it technically is an infrastructure problem, but I think it's more nuanced than, like I said before, than how a lot of people who haven't done like a whole lot of research are presenting it on social media, right? So here, I'm not gonna pretend like I know what these numbers mean for real, but he said decades ago, the ships with 3,000 TEU, that's the number of 20-foot containers that can fit on board, were considered the big ones, right? So 3,000 TEU was considered big. However, the Dali has a capacity of 10,000 TEU. According to a report from the U.S. Conference on Trade and Development, the world's largest shipping vessels got 155% bigger between 2006 and 2020. Concerns about enormous container ships arose in the wake of the Suez Canal blockage. Tuesday's incident could renew them even if it does not have the same economic impact. Importantly enough, the current accident once again highlights shipping's and in turn trade's sensitivity to unpredictable events and the need to build resilient supply chains. So yeah, I just wanted to cover that because I'm just like, I don't know how people can be spreading misinformation about a bridge falling. It's just like, when I seen somebody talk about, oh, they trying to distract us from Diddy, I'm like, girl, y'all need to find an article and read this shit. And just referring back to, because like once I saw this, even in my head, I was just like, here goes that shitty infrastructure of the US. And it's just like, yes, that is true. But this cargo ship was gigantic. It was just big. They're getting bigger over the decades. And the bridges that we got, the shit that we got in general, are not meant to withstand these ever-growing cargo ships and impact from them. And you would think that, okay, well, if they're not meant to withstand that shit, then we gotta, people would sit down and be like, okay, well, we gotta solve the issue, girl, before a bridge come tumbling down. Like, bitch, London Bridge type tease. It's just, I do not like that. I don't know. As a whole, it seems like sometimes we as human beings are very reactive when there's so many things we could do to take care of certain issues before they even become an issue in the first place. And accidents always happen all the time, right? But I'm just like, damn, this is just terrible. I'm just like thinking about how crazy would have been to be driving on a goddamn bridge, driving anywhere, and all in the night, 47-degree water underneath you, 100 and something foot drop from the bridge to the fucking water, and it ain't. it ain't like dropping a ball in the water from 2 inches above the surface. If you drop that hard, you're gonna hit that bit. Like from that high, you're gonna hit that water. You know what I mean? It's gonna fuck you up. So it's like, I don't know. And then the first thing that people were talking about, especially in these news reports, was the money, the packages, the shipments, the containers. And I'm just like, yo, there were people working on the bridge so it could even be used in the first place. There were people fixing that shit. And now their lives have potentially, most likely been lost. You know, these workers, if people are on the bridge, thankfully they were able to slow down or stop a lot of traffic from coming over the bridge. But it's like, damn, as soon as these reports came out, it was like people were talking about, oh my goodness, we won't be able to move this from here to there. And what about the Amazon packages and all this shit? I'm just like, damn, y'all, but people died. Like, can we talk about that first before we, But hey, money makes the world go round, and the U.S. is obsessed with it. So we're going to just follow this story as it unfolds. But yeah, I just wanted to clear some things out because I saw some really silliness going on. But yeah, on that note, thank y'all so much for watching. Love y'all so much. And make sure that you have a good goddamn evening.
And that's why you can't take me, you hate me. I don't want your nigga, you crazy. That nigga too lazy. I need me a nigga who can tame me. Coming through, we making niggas